You've started playing video games again. You listen to music for several hours a day. You don't work as much as you used to. You've fallen off from your self-improvement journey. It's happened to all of us. But how do you get started again? In this video, I will tell you the two main techniques, with the second one being the easier and more common one. But before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe. So, what should you do if you've fallen off from self-improvement? There will be two ways to go about this, and you will have to find out which one works best. Let's say you've started playing video games and listening to lots of music again, which is something I've personally experienced. Once you realize that you've gone downwards, you have two options, and these are the two methods. The first method is going to be more effective, but significantly more difficult. This method is to just give up those bad habits completely and go full cold turkey. This method is going to be extremely effective if you pull it off correctly, but at the same time it's going to be very difficult for the majority of people. In our modern world, most of us have a very short supply of dopamine, and therefore, we need constant stimulation. Those of us on self-improvement have managed to regulate our dopamine to much better levels than the rest of the populace, but still, we often require stimulation. When we go back to these bad habits, our brain starts getting accustomed to getting this constant stimulation again, and our dopamine becomes all messed up. When we cut out these bad habits completely, and in one fell swoop, you will get withdrawal symptoms very quickly. This is why this method, despite being more effective, may actually be less effective for some people due to the decreased chances of success. The majority of people cannot simply cut out every single bad habit and expect to not go back. We have more discipline than most, but the withdrawal phase is still going to be severe. This is why, for most people, the second method is going to be more effective, and I never really gave a name to this, but we can call it the easing method. With this technique, you don't immediately go cold turkey, but rather, ease yourself back into only good habits. Let's say you started playing video games for an hour a day at the end of the day. Now you'll start playing less and less every day consistently. For example, you may choose to play 10 or 5 minutes less every day, and with this, you'll be back to not playing video games in either 12 or 6 days. If at the end of this phase you still find it too tempting, then start playing 10 minutes every other day. Then start doing every 3 days, then once a week, until your urge to play video games becomes so minimal that it's almost non-existent. I use video games as an example, but this will prove to be true for the majority of all bad habits. For example, listening to music would be the exact same, as you have to lower the amount of time gradually as well. Doing drugs would be slightly different, and I think the best approach would be to, first of all, reduce your usage to once a day, then once every other day, and so on, until it's non-existent. As you can see though, the idea is always the same, starting from doing something multiple times a day, or for a long period of time every day, to doing it once or for a very short period of time every day, to doing it every other day, and then you'll have such a small urge for this thing that you won't mind quitting. But now that you've cut out the bad habits again, how should you incorporate good habits? You'll have to imagine these two types of habits, good and bad, as complete opposites. If you started off reading for 60 minutes a day and playing video games 60 minutes a day, when you cut down 10 minutes of video games, add 10 minutes of reading. Essentially, whatever we take away from the bad habits, put it back into the good habits. This will allow a gradual transition in which you aren't immediately crushing your dopamine levels to zero and being extremely bored, which is what the first method does, which will be more effective but significantly harder. Instead, we allow our dopamine to go through a small change every day and gradually turn it back to normal. Falling off of self-improvement can suck, but it's always just going to be a temporary thing that you need to work through. Fortunately, working through it isn't too difficult, but we also have to analyze what caused us to go downwards in the first place. For a lot of people, this is relationships. For others, they simply fall back into their vices. Once you reflect back and realize what made you lose progress, try to avoid that thing in the future so that you won't have to come back and watch this video again. Choosing between the two methods should be relatively easy. Most people will want to do the latter because the first one seems too hard. But if you'd like to challenge yourself, then go ahead. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.